Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge. Today we're going over my October wrap up. It is so crazy to me how quickly it's always time for a wrap up. Like I feel like I just do the TBR and the wrap up from like the last month and then it's time to go over these. So I am super excited. I read 10 books so far this month. There's one more that I'm about to finish, so at the end I'll include that because I always film these a little bit ahead of time so I can get them queued up. Before we dive into it, as always, I would just love to ask you if you're interested in this kind of content, if you love all the things BookTube, book reviews, wrap-ups, TBRs, book tags. I make new content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so go ahead and click the subscribe over here if you're interested. Otherwise, let's dive in. I had such a good month for these, and as you will see when we get into them, I finished up 3 different series this month, and for me, I'm a sucker for an end of a series. Like, if it gives me the feels, if it does all the things I want it to do, I'm gonna give it 5 stars, because as I've said in my video, which I'll link up here, about how I rate things, I rate mostly on feeling and not so much on the technical, unless the technical is so bad it distracts me. So let's jump into this. The first book, the one that got a 2-star, because I like to end on a good note, so we'll start there, was The Confectioner's Guild. This book was a NetGalley arc for me. It was not super great, and I think mostly it's because I had high expectations, which I think for arcs, I need to start like lowering my expectation a little bit. I feel bad about it, but this book was set up to be, well, let's tell you what the description is. So this is about a girl who, they live in a world of these different guilds where you start as an apprentice for a different thing and then you work your way up to a master. And this can be anything from, like, it's like craft things, so making shoes, making weapons, making whatever. And the main girl in this novel, hers is the gift of baking, and what baking can do is when you eat certain different things, it can like make you tell the truth, or you can poison people with things, but you basically like infuse magic into the things that you make, and then the kingdom uses the things you made as like a weapon or as like special things like that. So I DNF'd this at about 35%. I just couldn't get into it. There was a really weird mystery that was in it that it was just really conflicted with trying to learn about the world when it's a world that the person is like fully immersed in already. And I couldn't get into it. And the main character really annoyed me because she's put in a life or death situation and she's boy crazy. And like, you guys know, romance is like my favorite thing, but there was no like, it wasn't even insta love. Like, she's not having strong feelings for these people other than thinking that they're cute. Like, it's not even like a written, whereas like this one person I just met, they're the one for me. I'm never going to look at anyone else again. Just basically every young man she runs into, she wants to bone them and make out with them. And I couldn't get into it because I was promised this super interesting situation and it didn't follow. It was Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. So I had really high hopes for this. This was kind of my witchy read for the month. I was really excited to take this book on because the premise seemed really interesting. So the premise for this is there's this little town called Three Graces, and every 7 years they sacrifice the best boy in their town to the forest, to the devil in the forest. And in exchange for this, focus. In exchange for this, they get long life, health, their food all grows really great, nobody dies other than from old age. So they've been doing this for like 200 years. Well, this year it has started early. It's only been 3 years since the last sacrifice, and bad things start happening, and it's time to make another sacrifice, and the people of the town don't know why it's happening so soon. So, seems super interesting, right? Well, actually the most interesting part of this book for me was the interesting relationships. There is, I'm going to spoil this part just because I think it's important to know. There is a triad relationship that gets created, 2 guys and a girl, and they all love each other in like different ways. They each have their own distinct relationships within the relationship, but it's a triad. Like, they are together. And to me, that was the most interesting part of the book because it just seemed so natural, but the plot like didn't hold up for me to how interesting the relationship was. And I just was wanting more from it because I thought it was such an interesting premise, and for me, it just didn't deliver. Other people are raving about this. They had a great time with it in October. You'll probably hear other people say more amazing things than me. But for me, this was 3 stars just because I was expecting more, and it seemed really exciting, and then it just didn't hold up for me. And the story kind of like... Next 3-star read was Shadow of a Night by Deborah Harkness. This is the second book in the All Souls trilogy. It's after Discovery of Witches. This book was a slog. As you'll know, Discovery of Witches is one of my favorite books I read this year. I was so excited to dive into this book, and about 50 pages in, I hit a brick wall of boredom. I was so bored, guys. I skipped almost half of this novel, skipping around for interesting things. Like, there was just too much damn stuff going on, and none of it worked for me, y'all. Where? Yeah, just none of it worked for me. So I plan to continue because what was happening in this book is like done now. So I'm hoping book 3, the Book of Life, will get me back on track. And then the new book in the series, Times Convert, like I'm excited about those because that one is a Marcus's story and I really want to read it, which Marcus's story kind of got started in this book. So, I mean, I'm still going to continue. I don't know when because now I've lost my like steam for it, but I was just really disappointed in this book, so I had to give it 3 stars. So, sorry about that. I have my 3.7 star read for the month, and that was You by Carolyn Kepnes. Holy shit. Holy shit, guys. I talked about this so much in my weekly vlogs as I was reading it. This is such a scary book. So this book is about Joe Goldberg, and he is a stalker, and he is stalking you, and your name is Guinevere Beck, and you come into his shop one day and you flirt with him, you leave him your information, and then instead of just, you know, reaching out to you on Twitter or Facebook or something, he stalks you first, and then he finds a way to insinuate himself into your life, and then I won't spoil anything else from there. This was a great October read. It scared me to death. I live on the first floor of an apartment, and I feel unsafe. No, I'm just kidding. I'm okay. I'm pretty safe out here in Fargo, North Dakota. But guys, so many things. I gave it 3.75 just because it fell apart at the end for me. It got really boring in the middle, and then the end, when it like spiked, like the tension spiked, it just kind of went off the rails for me. And then also, so there's like a second book to this, and it's not told in the same format, and I just don't know how it can be as good. But anyway, this was great. I know it's a 3.75, but it's just because I don't read a lot of thrillers, and this made me really uncomfortable. So that's why. Like, it was really hard to be attached to him, and so it was like throwing me out of it a lot. But guys, it was really good, and if you love thrillers and you love creepy stuff like that, like, you're gonna like it. It just wasn't my cup of tea, so I had to like knock it like below a 4, which like a 4 means I loved it. So that's just why. But it was very good, and it was definitely worth my time. We're stripping, guys. It's warm in my apartment. Okay, my 4-star read. Book I gave 4 stars this month was Nightblood by Ellie Blake. This is going to mess up with my focus, so we'll go fast. This is one of the series that I finished because this is the 3rd book in the Frost Blood trilogy. This story is about Ruby and King Arcus, who are trying to defeat the Nightblood god who is possessing someone and trying to release all of this like evil, and she has to kind of put it back. So yeah, it was super good. I'm glad I read this before I read Kingdom of Ash, which obviously we're getting to. That's in my wrap up. Because the character in here also has to use her powers to like close a door to keep evil on the other side. And so it feels like a little bit a little bit like Kingdom of Ash, but it's a completely different world and like different situation. But when I was reading Kingdom of Ash, I was like, oh, this is kind of like Nightblood. But anyway, obviously the two authors couldn't have known what each other was doing, and this was really great. This story for me was all about the romance. There is a wonderful romance in this trilogy, and you know, I was afraid to get into this because it had been a while since I read one of the books in the series, and I was afraid, am I going to remember what happened? Am I going to remember this or that? But I love the two main characters, and their romance is so good that it just immediately sucked me back into the story, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember what was going on, because it is a Frostblood girl, or a Fireblood girl who's in love with a Frostblood king, and it's amazing. And anyway, so I can't say too much else about this without like spoiling the series, but I feel like this series doesn't get enough love, and I'm definitely going to talk about it more on my channel. But it is the Frostblood. Here's the first book in that series. And then this is the third one. So this was super great. I gave it 4 stars. All right, now we're already into my 5-star reads, guys. This is crazy. I have 5 of them. This is amazing. So let's do this one first. I read Pride and Prejudice this month. This kind of got added on just like a week and a half ago because I became one of Murphy Napier's patrons, and so I get to do buddy reads with her every month, which I'm so happy about because it's going to stretch me to read a lot of things that I like don't normally read, which, I mean, I've read this before, but I don't normally read it for like pleasure. I mean, it's Pride and Prejudice. What is there to say that hasn't been said? This was a 5-star read. It was amazing. It's everything everyone says about it. And even going into it, and I was trying to be more critical than normal, and it's still a 5 out of 5 for me. Fight me. Fight me if you feel different. Next, this was also a reread. I read by Diana Gabaldon. I was rereading this because season 4 of Outlander starts on November 4th. I'm so excited about it. So I did a reread for the 4th season. Tried to take some notes this time. It was so much fun. Again, what else is there to say? This is the 4th book in a series. Why are you not reading Outlander? Why are you not reading Outlander? Up, we had The Heart of Betrayal and Beauty and Darkness. This is book 2 and 3 in the Kiss of Deception trilogy. Oh my God, I've said it once. I'll say it again. Leah is my favorite main character that I've probably ever read. Like, I mean, I'm on a high after finishing this series, so I'm sure there are other people that are just as great, but where I'm at right now, I can't think of anyone who's more awesome than Leah, and she's so brave and smart, and I love all the other characters. I love Rafe and Caden and Pauline, and just everyone is amazing. And why are you not reading this trilogy as well? Like, Murphy is the one who like made me read this one. Not make me, but she talks about him all the time, and it was so much fun, and I just love this series so much. I really suggest it. It was beautiful. All 3 of these were 5-star reads for me. I listened to them on audio, except the last like 200 pages of this, because I just couldn't wait for it to be spoken. I needed to read it faster. So I'll probably still finish listening to it as well, but these were all 5 stars. It's so good. Or tomorrow. That is West. This is a sequel to East, which East, if you've been around my channel ever, you know is my favorite book of all time. And like 12 years later, the author put out a sequel, which I'm feeling in my heart that this is going to be a 4-star just because A, it can't compete with the first one, and B, there's a few things about it that I'm not a huge fan of, but Rose and Charles are still, my heart still beats for them, so I'm happy to continue with it. I will definitely finish this tonight or tomorrow, so I just want to let you know this one will probably be a 4-star. It's so good. If you haven't read that, you need to read East first, so go find that, East by Edith Pateau, and then you can read West, because it's awesome. So, and then finally, y'all know we had to talk about this. I didn't anticipate I would read it in one day, because on Tuesday, the 23rd, I read this book in one day, and then yesterday, my review of it went up. So that happened. It's a 55-minute video. I'll link it above, but like, get some popcorn before you read it. Kingdom of Ash. What is there to say, my friends? I have a review of this. It's 5 out of 5 stars. It was everything I wanted, everything I didn't know I needed. Sarah is queen. I need to start this series all over again to like fully appreciate it, but it was fucking amazing. I don't drop F-bombs very often, but I just said it. It's so good, guys. I loved it. If you love Sarah J. Maas, you'll love it. It was beautiful. 11 hours, and I finished it. So there's my Leaning Tower of books. I read 10 books this month. It was an amazing month for me. It started out really slow because I had started, like, you'll watch my Goodreads through the month, and I'll just keep adding these books that I'm currently reading, and then all of a sudden I'll have like 7 of them there, and I'll be like, dude, I need to finish these books. What am I doing? So anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. Like I said at the beginning, I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Please join the Book Refuge, a safe place to talk about books and be nerdy together. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.